And welcome to the bright side, friends. Pharmacist Ben here. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have comments, success stories, questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, I'd love to hear what you guys are up to this. It's almost over here in our state, in Colorado. It's probably almost over in a few other states, this whole COVID shelter-in-place thing. How did you handle it? What did you do? I'd love to hear what you guys think about this whole thing at 844-236-6010 is our number on the bright side. If you want to purchase any longevity, we have a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour, by the way, so we'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, call 866-735-2470. And if you want to start a longevity business, make some money in your spare time, make some money while you're sheltering in place, have a part-time gig, have a just part-time source of income or a full-time source of income. A lot of folks are making some pretty significant money helping spread the word about the power and importance of a good nutritional supplement program, as well as the longevity products. Call 866-735-2470 for more info, or go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com, and click on the Join the Team link. You can sign up to join the Brightside Ben team or purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. All right, welcome back to the Bright Side. Got Dr. Rick Mars coming up at the bottom of the hour. He's going to talk to us about home health care for your teeth. I've been reading a lot about the importance of gum health, the importance of gum disease as it relates to cardiovascular disease. And we know that cardiovascular disease is a big risk factor for COVID symptomology, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, as well as immune problems. All of these point to the fact that we have a lot more control over how our bodies show up in terms of immunity and how our life shows up in terms of reality than we're led to believe. We are the kings of our reality to a large extent. Not everything, but when it comes to how our bodies respond to viruses and the ups and downs that are just endemic of a part of being alive, the vicissitudes of life, we have a lot more control over how our bodies and how our life shows up. Yeah, there's going to be things that happen, but we have some control over how our life will show up to us via perception, via attention. Attention is the magic key right there. Via our attention, we can hack into our neurology, and via our neurology, we hack into everything else. Attention leads to neurology. Neurology leads to life. Neurology being perception, being emotion, being sensation, being experience, being thought, and being the immune system, and being how our body grows, and being how our body deals with the stresses of life. Via our attention, we control our neurology, and via our neurology, we control everything else. Our attention allows us to hack into our nervous system, which then allows us to hack into how our life shows up. Not on the outside, but on the inside. In other words, not in terms of what's happening to us externally, but how we're seeing what happens to us. It doesn't matter what happens to us externally. It's how we perceive what's happening to us. And that's under the control of our neurology. It's regulated by our nervous system. And our nervous system can be hacked into by our attention. In fact, our nervous system is regulated by our attention too. What we pay attention to is what our nervous system will respond to. Now, there are things that we don't know we're paying attention to. Our nervous system is still responding to. If we're paying attention to something subconsciously, like when you're driving and you don't remember you drove, you were paying attention to the road. You were paying attention to the road. You just didn't know it. So even if you pay attention subconsciously, that's going to affect your neurology. Paying attention is your portal into your nervous system, whether it's consciously paying attention or unconsciously paying attention. And this is why it's important to know what you're unconsciously paying attention to. A miserable life is the end result of unconsciously paying attention to things you don't want to be paying attention to. That's what addiction is. That's what depression is. All our misery comes from somehow, nobody wants to be miserable consciously, but somehow unconsciously paying attention to the wrong things. On the other hand, if you pay attention to things consciously, if you pay attention to what you're paying attention to, you'll have so much more control over your life, and you'll have so much more control over how your life shows up, and you'll have the likelihood of having a more successful, content, self-actualized life goes up exponentially if you pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Pay attention to gratitude. Pay attention to your body. How many of us pay attention to our digestive system when we're eating? I guarantee you, you'd be eating a lot less food if you paid attention to your digestive system as you were eating. If we paid attention to our body as we were living our lives, we would act a lot differently. One of the biggest reasons that we do what we do, whether it's addiction or eating the wrong food or hanging out with the wrong people or whatever it is that we do, is because we're not paying attention to the signals from the body. We're not paying attention to our body. We pay far more attention to our thoughts than anything else. We spend our entire day paying attention to our thoughts, watching our thoughts, or thinking our thoughts, not paying attention to our thoughts, but thinking our thoughts. Now, if we paid attention to our thoughts, we'd be a lot better off. Our attention is on our thoughts, but not in a conscious way, in an unconscious way. But if we start to pay attention to our thoughts, we actually might be horrified. This is why people can't sleep at night, because all of a sudden they're forced to pay attention to their thoughts. Usually this is why people do stuff all day. Are you the type of person that has to keep moving all day, or do you know people who have to keep moving all day? Blaise Pascal, the mathematician philosopher, said, all of man's problems can be reduced to him not being able to sit in a room alone by himself. And that's what insomnia is. We can't lay in bed at night by ourselves. When we're by ourselves at night, there's nothing else there. Even if you're sleeping next to somebody, you're by yourself in your head. All those thoughts are still going on during the day. You're just not paying attention to them. Meditation is paying attention. Meditation allows you the opportunity to pay attention to your thoughts, just like sleep does. And that's why people can't meditate, just like they can't sleep. Because all of a sudden, you got all these thoughts. The trick to falling asleep and the trick to meditating is to learn the distinction between thinking your thoughts and watching your thoughts. And it's a very subtle distinction, and it's really hard to explain to somebody who doesn't quite understand it. Thinking your thoughts is not the same as watching your thoughts. And first figuring out the distinction, figuring out the difference between the two, and then practicing watching your thoughts versus thinking your thoughts is a major power tool, a major tool for having a great life. Being able to disengage from thinking your thoughts and instead watching your thoughts, it will allow you to fall asleep much quicker. It will allow you to meditate much more effectively. And it will allow you to withstand the inevitable disasters and horrible things that happen in a normal life. Remember, pain is pain, but suffering is in the mind. We can disengage from suffering because when we disengage from our thoughts are in suffering, so we're going to be free. Be free from suffering. If not pain, be free from suffering. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. Back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Love to hear from you. Love to hear from you about your thoughts about all the craziness that's going on, the coronavirus craziness that's going on, the government and political craziness that's going on, the vaccine mania that's going on, people screaming for their vaccines. What an ideal situation for drug companies and vaccine manufacturers. We're screaming for drugs and screaming for vaccines. This is absolute insanity. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have comments, questions, success stories, you'd like to share health challenges that you or a loved one may be dealing with, we can help you. 844-236-6010. We have Dr. Rick Mars coming on, talking about gum disease and dental health and things that we need to do and things that we can focus on in terms of at-home do-it-yourself. If you're sheltering in place, Dr. Mars is a dentist and the author of The Big Smile, The Principles of Modern Dentistry. We'll talk to Dr. Rick Mars in our next segment. 844-236-6010 is our number. I was going to tell you about this guy that I was talking to last weekend. He's 69 years old, and he had a stent put in. Really super cool guy. He had a stent put in his heart, and he looks great, and he meditates, and he's got a lot of things in his favor, but he had a stent put in his heart, and that means that there's some circulatory problems, and indeed he called me up and talked to me about his heart racing. Excuse me, and of course, what did I tell him? Obviously, you guys know, if you've listened to this program any length of time, you know that if you have your heart rate is up or your body is in stress response or stress mode, which is what that means when your heart rate is up like that. When you're in distress in any way, that means it's time to breathe. We're talking about paying attention to parts of the body. Paying attention to the breath will instantly put you into an alpha state. Not instantly, but very, very quickly put you into an alpha state. Within a minute, you can go into an alpha brainwave state. That is a relaxation brainwave state, a relaxing state. Remember, you have four major brainwaves. You've got alpha and theta brainwaves that are associated with relaxation. You've got delta brainwaves, which are associated with deep sleep. And you've got, and I'm being very simplistic here, by the way, and beta brainwaves, which are associated with problem solving, where most of us live, is in the beta state. High blood pressure is a sign of, and in fact, any activated sympathetic nervous system activity means your beta system is an overdrive, which means you want to get yourself into alpha and theta. Alpha is the hypnotic state, the hypnagogic state, they say, the relaxation state, you're suggestible, and theta. Actually, theta might be hypnagogic, but theta is theta is the state you're in when you just wake up in the morning or right before you wake up in the morning. If you ever had a dream where if you ever had a dream that had something to do with something that was going on in real life, but somehow entered into your dream, like somebody was running the vacuum cleaner while you were sleeping and you dreamt of thunder or something like that, that's a sign that you're in theta state. The weird kind of thing that happens before you fall asleep at night. Right before you fall asleep, there's like weird. If you're careful, and you could watch what happens right before you fall asleep. You'll notice you got some weird thoughts and weird dreams. You can't even put your finger on what those are. That's all the theta state, theta brainwave state. It's associated with the theta brainwave state. Alpha and theta calms the body down, takes it out of beta, and the fastest way to get into alpha theta is by slow, deep, rhythmic breathing, SDR breathing. And not just SDR breathing, paying attention to your SDR breathing. It's not enough to SDR breathe. It's in the paying attention. When you place your attention on the SDR breathing, you activate the neurology of safety, which immediately takes you into alpha and theta. Activating the neurology of safety is the most beautiful, pleasurable, joyful, and healthy state you could possibly be in. When you activate this safety sense, you are perfectly at peace. How does that sound, people? No matter what you watch on the news, and by the way, the news, watching the news paying attention to the news, is the fastest way to get out of this sense of peace. Why would anybody want to do that? Help me understand. Why would anybody watch the news? Which isn't news at all. It's olds, because it's always the same stuff. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. I don't mean to get on a high horse or be self-righteous here. I'm just trying to point out all these places, these wonderful places where we have power over our lives, where we abdicate and we give it up to the authority, the health authorities, the medical authorities, the political authorities. We give all that up. The peace that passeth understanding, as it says in the Bible, is something we have access to at all times. At all times. Basically, it's like flipping a switch. The only thing that keeps us from flipping that switch is preconceived beliefs and our addiction to patterns of thought. All right, 844-236-6010. Let's see what David in Pennsylvania has to say. Good morning. Welcome to the bright side, David.
Good morning, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. What's going on?
Awesome. I just want to see what your point of view on. I refuse to follow these CDC guidelines with wearing a mask. I philosophically have an issue with it.
Same here. Same here.
And I have, total authority and control over my body. So I do not give my authority to them. But my point of view is, as a pharmacist and a biochemist, your points that maybe I can help enlighten other people as why the mask has really no effect or no help in stopping the spread or protecting you from the virus.
Well, I don't know if I go so far as to say no mask has any benefit from the virus. If you believe that there's a virus, and there's no proof of that, but let's say we go with that, there are masks that can give you antiviral protection, but they're heavy-duty masks. Whether the surgical masks can do that that's unlikely. We'll put it that way, and certainly not bandanas or the cloth things. Right? That's a joke. That's silly. And I think people just like to wear bandanas. That's the only. I can only That's the only reason I could think why somebody would wear a bandana, unless they really, really believe that a bandana is going to stop a viral particle or a virus from getting through into your respiratory tract. That's crazy. There are masks that can probably do it, but not. It's unlikely that the surgical masks, and it's unlikely that it's not unlikely. It's impossible that a bandana will do it. And then there's also the idea of, you have to have it on just right. You can't. You have to be completely sealed, and I don't know that everybody who's wearing an effective mask would wear it correctly. And then there's also the issue of you're breathing all that stuff in from the mask. That can't be good for you. And the more airtight the mask is, the more protective the mask is, the worse it gets. So, it's unlikely unless you have the right mask, and then you're going to have a problem with toxicity. Does that help?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for everything you do.
All right. Thank you, David. All right. Let's go. We got one more call here. Let's see if we can get one more call in. What's going on? Who do we got here?
What's going on? It's Cozy.
Oh, man. Good to talk to you, Cozy. I was hoping you would call me. You had a post. We're at the end, though. You had a post today that I was going to ask you about, and so I was thinking about you. What did you post today? Or was it
I don't
yesterday?
even remember what I posted. But,
you posted something today or yesterday I wanted to talk to you about, and I forgot what it was. What's going on? We've got about a minute, or even less. We've got about 20 seconds here.
Okay, so basically I wanted to talk about the CDC director said we should get flu shots when we know that two studies came out recently. One study came out from the Department of Defense saying that flu vaccines increase the risk of getting a coronavirus by 36%.
I think I did see that. I think that's what I saw you post. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Call back earlier tomorrow or something so we can talk to you some more. Okay.
I will. Yes.
Thank you, Cozy.
Take care.
Thank you, buddy. All right. Got Rick Mars coming up bottom of the hour. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. We are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 at brightsideben.com with a search engine if you miss a program or have a specific subject you'd like to review. Brightsideben.com has a search engine as well as the longevity products, and you can also purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com and pharmacistben.com and sign up to join the Brightside Ben team as well off the websites. We've got videos and news stories and blog posts and lots of good free health information. Plus, my Moments of Truth are up at criticalhealthnews.com. Thank you to Jonty for setting that one up. And then don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for wound healing. Wound healing and health equals beauty. That was my discovery, and that will be your discovery as well when you check out our Truth Treatment products at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, I'm excited to have our next guest on. Dr. Rick Mars is a dentist and the author of The Big Smile, The Principles of Modern Dentistry for Dentists and Patients. And we're going to talk a little bit about good dental hygiene in this corona crazy time that we're living in. And then also I want to talk a little bit about gum disease and the immune system as well. Please welcome to The Bright Side, Dr. Rick Mars. Hey, Dr. Rick.
Hey, Ben. How you doing today?
Good to talk to you. Your voice sounds familiar. I don't know if we talked before. We've been talking to some dentists, a lot of dentists actually, in the last couple of months or so, and there seems to be a kind of thread that runs through underneath what everybody's talking about, and that's the relationship between gum disease, mouth bacteria, oral bacteria, and cardiovascular health. So we'll talk a little bit about Invisalign, and we'll talk a little bit about dental procedures. But can you address that for a little bit and talk about the relationship between dental health and the immune system specifically?
Sure. So, what we're obviously in these times, even as dentists, we realize we are not the first thing on everybody's mind right now is, oh, my God, I'm late for my cleaning. Oh, my God, I forgot to get that filling done, blah, 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 all that stuff, because obviously we have much, much, much bigger things to worry about right now. But what everybody forgets about is, yes, the mouth is extremely important. Lots of times it's neglected. Lots of times, oh, it's just my teeth. And then, you don't realize you have a dental issue till you have a dental issue. And as far as the consequences and the link between the mouth and the rest of the body, for years, dentists have been saying the mouth is the window of the body. Years ago when we all went through the HIV crisis, lots of times we could see the early signs of HIV in the mouth, believe it or not. So the oral manifestations, what we saw there, were indications of, something that was possibly going wrong. But, as far as gum disease is inflammation, basically. And we know that inflammation is not good in our bodies in any way, shape, or form. So inflammation is, when you have inflamed gums and you have plaque build up in your mouth, that same plaque that builds up in your mouth is the same plaque that builds up on your arteries and veins. It's called a C-reactive protein. And that C-reactive protein causes blockages. So it is linked to heart attack, stroke, diabetes, pancreatic cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, early term birth, and this is, believe it or not, this really raises people's eyebrows, even erectile dysfunction. So,
a C-reactive protein?
And when we're blocking arteries and veins and things like that, we're restricting or constricting blood flow. And these are things that can be very, very detrimental. I cannot tell you. In my book, I tell a story about my wife had a trainer who came in to see me once, and the trainer was built like an Adonis. I mean, a brick house. This guy was the picture of fitness. He's a trainer, and we diagnosed him with some gum disease, and unfortunately, he didn't follow through with treatment. And about 2 years later, I hear, "You won't believe this, guess who had a stroke?" And I did believe it, although as shocking as it was, I did believe it because I knew his perio situation. And it doesn't mean that because you have gum disease, you're going to have a stroke, God forbid, but you're putting yourself in a risk category that would be somebody who's a smoker or somebody who's, obese. You're putting yourself in the same risk factors if you're walking around with gum disease. I mean, we see people daily that look great on the outside, that are fit and run and eat good, and just don't take care of their mouths. So it's a big issue.
Now, a couple things. First of all, did I hear you say C-reactive protein shows up in the mouth?
Shows up in the mouth and shows up on those, that's what causes the plaque on your arteries and veins too, correct.
So C-reactive protein, that doesn't cause the plaque on your teeth, though? Or that's not related to the plaque?
It doesn't cause the plaque on your teeth, but it's in the plaque on your teeth.
It's in the plaque. So there's actually inflammation going on the tooth.
Correct. We do saliva testing in our office. We work with a company that does saliva testing, and we will measure certain bacteria that's built up in your mouth. And certain bacteria has been linked to certain diseases. So we know if you're high in a certain bacteria, like an extreme level, high levels of bacteria, because there's a lot of bacteria in the mouth that's naturally occurring. But if you're high in certain dangerous bacteria, I mean, we have to go after that mechanically, sometimes with antibiotics and mouth rinses and things to lower those bacteria levels down, because a lot of that bacteria is removed and will just start growing back, even with amazing hygiene at home. So that's why sometimes we have to, attack it chemically also with antibiotics and such.
So bacterial species can be diagnostic of certain health challenges, systemic health challenges?
Yes, absolutely.
How fascinating. That's amazing. How about cancer?
We know that gum disease has shown some links to people who have certain cancers, like I mentioned, pancreatic cancer. That's one that's, near and it's very much a part of my life. I lost my mother to pancreatic cancer, and there is a link between gum disease and certain cancers. I don't know specific situations. They might be out there, so I don't want to be misquoted where certain bacteria has been linked to certain cancers. But I think the bottom line at the end of the day is, we're not going to pinpoint. Any patient at home can't pinpoint, oh, my gosh, I want to get this bacteria down in my mouth. But it's just having optimum oral health. I mean, I can't stress it enough. I've done a lot of radio interviews in the last 5 weeks or so, and there's the thing that I'm stressing to people right now is, I talk to people all the time, and people are making certain decisions of, hey, I'm going to start running now, or I'm going to start eating good now. There's no reason why I can't. I mean, the things that we always have excuses for, those excuses are now out the door because time is now our friend and not our enemy. And This is the time. I mean, especially, people that are going to be quarantined for the next few weeks, go out there and brush after every meal, eat as good as you can, and start flossing once a day. I mean, you do something for 3 weeks in a row, and psychologists tell us those 3 weeks, that's how things become habit. Very, very important that we build those good habits.
Do you think that the majority of people do floss and brush and do the proxy brush deal? I'm sure everybody brushes, but flossing and the extra things, do you think the majority of people do that, or the majority of people don't do that?
It's not a question. I think I know
that the majority
of people don't do it. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, we ask our patients. I can't tell you how many times I wish I had $1 for every time I heard the joke. When was the last time you flossed? And the patient will look up at you and go, "You should know because you were there."
Okay.
So we know people just, it's one of those things that if people actually did it, there wouldn't be any gum disease, essentially. There'd be much, much, much less gum disease on this planet if people practice good oral hygiene and flossed on a daily basis and brushed at least twice a day, but ideally 3 times a day or more.
So
you can overdo it, too. You don't want to overdo it, but you don't want any food building up between your teeth. I mean, think about something. If you catch food between your teeth and you leave it there, and it stays there over and over and over, that's like, think about bad meat that you'd leave in your car or your garage you forgot about. What would that be like after a day or two, spoiled meat? Well, that's what's going on between your teeth.
Yeah, that's pretty graphic there, Doc. I definitely get a sense of that. But I'm wondering, the teeth seem like they're really not designed like really well, at least for modern diets. There's all these little nooks and crannies in there. Can you really? Well, we got to take a break. We'll come back talking to Dr. Rick Mars. You're listening to The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll be back after this. Back on The Bright Side, talking to Dr. Rick Mars, author of The Big Smile, The Principles of Modern Dentistry for Dentists and Patients. So, Doc, you make it sound really easy. All you got to do is just floss and brush, but it seems to me like the teeth have got all these little nooks and crannies, and there's all these little places where food can hide. It seems almost impossible to really take care of your teeth well. Is that not correct, you think? Or, I mean, what's up? I know a lot of people, including myself, who try as hard as they can to do everything right and still end up with cavities or mouth problems.
Well, usually, we always like to have a reason for everything. It's like somebody breaks a tooth and they come and go, why did that happen? Well, I was just eating mashed potatoes. Rarely do you have somebody come in and tell you they broke it on an almond or, biting into something that they shouldn't have bit into, but occasionally you do. You can absolutely take good care of your teeth. And there's things you can do early on in terms of, getting sealants in your teeth, and those take care of the biting surface, nooks and crannies. But if you have gaps in between your teeth, you mentioned Invisalign early on, that's a big part of my practice. Close the gaps up. Take care of the gaps, close them up, and if you can't close them up, orthodontically, then sometimes there's ways you have to do it in terms of crowning teeth or changing the shape of teeth or doing the things you do, but get rid of those open contacts. They can be very, very, very dangerous.
Are there always...
I don't want to say there's no excuses. Look, there's always an excuse. This is extremely harsh, but a good friend of mine many years ago taught me saying, an excuse is a well-planned lie. So if you don't want to take care of your teeth, you won't take care of your teeth. But, we can tell when somebody comes in and really practices great home care. I mean, it shows. When you have, there's no, like, somebody comes in and says, I brush 2 or 3 times a day and I floss every day properly and I eat great and I do the things I have to do. Those people are not going to walk in and, have a disaster going on in their mouths, what we call a schmutz mouth, okay, where it's just full of plaque and buildup and everything like that. They're going to have healthy-looking mouths. And, when you don't, it shows. I mean, there are some people that are genetically, it's like the people that can eat all kinds of garbage and don't put on a pound. I mean, yeah, sometimes genetics comes into play and people get lucky, but that's more the exception than the rule.
Can all gaps be closed?
Can all gaps be closed? I would say for the most part, yes, but there are some few exceptions. But rarely. But for the most part, you can close most of the gaps. I mean, if somebody has like a humongous gap between their 2 front teeth, more than likely we can even close those, but rarely. Sometimes there's what we call we do something called a bulb analysis, and then we check out the spacing in each arch, how they're divided. And sometimes we can create some space and close some teeth up in one arch and move things around and do what we need to do. But occasionally there's too big a discrepancy, so we're not able to close everything as we need to. So in cases sometimes where the lower teeth are disproportionate to the upper teeth, we sometimes have some difficulty closing every single gap, but that's more the exception than the rule.
What are the worst foods somebody could eat if they have a problem, or if they don't have a problem and they don't want to have a problem? What are like the top 3 or 4 or 5 worst foods for the teeth?
So let's have some fun, okay? Hate to throw it back on you. If you had to guess what's the worst food you could put in your mouth, I'll bet you $1, Ben, you won't guess.
Food or drink? Not including drinks, I would say the worst food is dried fruits.
Okay. All right. Well, you do not win the $1 today, Ben. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. What's the worst one?
Most people don't. So here you go. Ready?
Yeah.
But you're very close.
Yeah.
So the worst thing you could put in your mouth, believe it or not, is something like potato chips. It's the number one cavity-causing food. Why?
Tell me why.
It gets stuck in between your teeth. And what's a potato chip? It's a potato, and what's a potato? A carbohydrate. Carbohydrate feeds the bacteria that cause cavities. So foods like that are the number one cavity-causing foods. So,
worse than dried
that
fruit.
You may not think about, but those foods, you were spot on when you said drinks, because if you're a big soda drinker and things like that, you're introducing a lot of sugar into your diet. That's absolutely something that's going to increase cavities. But also if you're in a situation where you're, sticky foods like those dried fruits, same thing. They're carbohydrates. They sit in your teeth, and great, eat them. I'm not even telling you not to have candy or chocolate or things that you need occasionally if you want to treat yourself. I mean, obviously, everything in moderation. But go brush your teeth afterwards. Get it out from in between your teeth, and don't let it sit there for, hours and hours and hours and hours eating away. Think of it like termites. We just started termite season here in Florida a week ago in the middle of this pandemic. Believe it or not, people are dealing with termites in their houses depending on where they're at. Think of your teeth when you get foods in there like termites. Termites are eating away at your teeth.
All right.
That's the plaque and everything eating away at your teeth, and the bacteria eating away at your teeth, causing soft spots and causing cavities.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're so hardwired for sugar, but our teeth aren't. Our brain is, but our teeth aren't, and we created a culture where it's almost impossible not to avoid that interaction. All foods do. Ketchup has that in it, probably. But you're right. You're right. The sticky stuff, the cookies too, probably, right? You think cookies would be?
I mean, obviously, if you learn to read the labels, then you see that what's in those foods, and you'd be surprised that the sugar and the carbohydrates and things like that are in these foods. And when you see what's in these foods, and you know that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what sticks in between your teeth. You know that.
Right.
Obviously, the foods that don't stick in between your teeth are much, much better. The things that are low in carbohydrates. But at the end of the day, the saving grace is you have the ability with good oral hygiene to make up for the consumption of those foods that may not be the best for your teeth. You can make it up with good oral hygiene. If you go have, some potato chips, okay, you love potato chips and you have to have potato chips once a day and whatever other nutritional negatives they present to you. But as far as your teeth are concerned, if you go brush your teeth after you eat your potato chips, the damage is going to be minimal. And if you don't have food stuck between your teeth, if you don't have open contacts and things like that you're not addressing, then the damage is going to be minimal.
Are there best foods for the teeth?
Yeah, I think your vitamin-enriched foods are great. Things that are high in calcium and things like that are good for your teeth. They help harden your enamel. So I think things of that nature, if you eat a good balanced diet, high nutritional diet, but just things that are high in calcium are the best things for your teeth.
And then what do you think about fluoride?
I think fluoride's great.
Yeah.
I know there's some naturalists that there's been some studies and things, and I don't know your own personal feeling on it. I know the things that you present on your show, but one of the things that I'm always a big advocate on, whenever you hear, negatives on things, always check those sources. I know there's people that are very, very negative, and there's studies that have shown, but always check the sources. I don't think you're going to see from major universities and bona fide universities anything that backs up that fluoride doesn't cause a reduction in cavities, makes your teeth stronger. There are many, many positive effects of fluoride, and I know has some controversy out there. But I think at the same time that if you check those sources, the problem what we don't do in our society is we hear something, and especially with the internet today, we hear something and we consider it to be fact. And guess what I saw on television? Guess what I heard on the internet? And today, obviously, with what's going on with coronavirus, look what we hear one day.
Right.
The next day is totally disputed and thrown out. There's a great cure, potential cure, and next thing you know, more people are dying from the cure, and it's not working. Or don't wear masks. Now we have to all wear masks. So what we hear today, always check out the sources. And that's our problem is we don't check out. We don't ask the second question, the third question. Oh, fluoride's, terrible. It's bad for your health. You can die. It's linked to cancer. Okay, who said that exactly? And what are their studies? And just because their first name is doctor, please don't get fooled by that. And even if they happen to be in the right field, check where the source of that study is. See if it's a major university. See if it's a known institute. See if it's National Institute of Health or CDC or Harvard University or Emory University or great universities. See the sources of those studies, and I think you'd be very surprised when you check out those sources that those studies that show fluoride isn't good for you, they're not very credible sources.
Hey, are you going to, you see patients, right? You're not just an author. You see patients?
No. I'm a wet finger dentist that's dying to go back to work and start seeing patients.
So are you going to be concerned about the virus when you're working on people's mouths?
Every single dentist, dental hygienist, dental assistant is concerned about the virus because we work in two things we have working against us. Number one is the close proximity.
Right.
And number two is we create aerosols when we're drilling with our air spray and our water spray, and that, there's a lot of controversy about the aerosols right now. So am I concerned? The answer is yes. Am I going to do my job? The answer is yes. Am I going to be smart about how I do my job? The answer is yes. So everybody's concerned, and we're waiting to hear, we can't get PPE right now, personal protective equipment, because we're not deemed essential yet because we're theoretically closed right now, which we are.
Hey, Doc, we're out of time, buddy. I'm sorry. Dr. Rick Mars, dentalcaregroup.net, dentalcaregroup.net. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.